Hello, and welcome to part 3 of my series Why Film Music, which is a video spin off to accompany my book Raga to Rock. So, it took a long time to put together part 3 because I really couldn't make up my mind on what I should talk about in this, which is the last installment on Ilayaraja. Should I do best interludes? Should I discuss his approach to fusion? Basically, I wanted to bring out what makes him different from pretty much every other film music composer. In other words, what makes Ilayaraja Ilayaraja. And then I thought of the perfect song to break down what makes Ilayaraja Ilayaraja. I'm talking about the song Ninnu Kori Varnam from the film Agni Natchatram. Now, Agni Natchatram is one of his most successful, most beloved albums, and I would encourage you to check out the whole album if you have never heard it. But to me, Ninnu Kori, more than any other track, exemplifies what makes his approach so different from the others. I will explain why after taking you through the song from the intro to the end of the first charanam or antara. So let's talk about this song now. To begin with, the whole concept is so audacious. Ninnu Kori Varnam is the name of a Carnatic Varnam in the Ragam Mohanam. Yes, and this is what the actual Carnatic Ninnu Kori Varnam sounds like. So here we have Ilayaraja taking a Carnatic Varnam and dressing it up so convincingly in Western arrangements that unless you knew beforehand that there is a Ninnu Kori Varnam in Carnatic, you wouldn't even know that this song owes its existence to a Varnam. So with that, now let's look into a few signature hallmarks of Ilayaraja style that are very evident in this song. Firstly, the melody, it's just so staccato. Listen to how the singer, who is none other than the great K.S. Chitra, listen to how she sings the line Urukili Tanitirka. So every syllable she sings is perfectly punctuated by percussion strokes. Urukili Tanitirka, and that's the point. He builds in a very rhythmic quality to the song by making the singer and the musicians sing it so staccato that every note has a punch. You can also observe how he uses this staccato element to create sections and divisions in this song, especially in the interlude. So let's check out the first interlude again with this in mind. So rather than something like one piece of music continuously flowing through the interlude, you have almost discrete sections where he explores one idea and then he moves on to the other and then the next from there. And this is not how film music used to be done before his time. So I will just play for you a portion from a very famous R.D. Burman song which will bring home the point.
फिर वही रात है, फिर वही रात है ख्वाब की, हो रात भर ख्वाब में देखा करेंगे तुम्हें, फिर वही रात है.
So a sense of flow used to be very important to composers who came before Ilayaraja. But he replaced that flow with a highly punctuated staccato, and without that he wouldn't be able to get a Varnam to rock. And which brings us to the next point. Notice the riff that opens this song, just the opening riff. So Ilayaraja began to use riffs and guitar keyboard chords to drive songs rather than to write a melody and then devise accompaniments for the melody. And that is also why it is difficult to sing his songs bare without the arrangements. It is not that his approach to writing melody is flawed. What it only means is that he writes one integrated composition in which the melody, the chords, the percussion, everything is tightly interlinked. So I'll give you an example of this again from the line Urukili Tanitirka. So if you notice, between the lines that Chitra is singing, there is a keyboard chord interjection. So if you remove that keyboard interjection and just sing the melody, well, you can do it, but it would not sound complete. So that's what I mean when I say that he basically comes up with one integrated composition. You can't just subtract elements that you like and then add something else in its place. Then you have basically kind of, I would not say destroyed, but you have basically reduced some essence of the original composition. And speaking of integrated keyboard chords, Ilayaraja often writes keyboard and guitar chords. So, what do I mean by keyboard and guitar chords? So, let's have a listen again.
ரகுவரனே அனுதினமும் நின்னு கோரி வர்ணம் வர்ணம் இசைத்திட என்னை.
So, if you notice at the end of the vocal line, there's a guitar part, and while she's singing, there's keyboard chords accompanying her. So, that's what I mean when I say it's keyboard and guitar chords, rather than a keyboard based song or a guitar based song. Now, that is something that you might hear, for instance, on Steely Dan songs. Yes, Steely Dan. So, if you haven't heard this song before, this is Home at Last, which is one of the most popular songs of Steely Dan. And as you can see in that motif, you have a guitar riff and you also have piano chords, which are both kind of supporting the melody, which is driven by horns. So, that kind of writing is par for the course when you're talking about Steely Dan, but in film music, this level of complexity in chord writing was unthinkable before Ilayaraja. And I have to say that it is not exactly commonplace post Ilayaraja either. And a very notable aspect of this complexity is the bass lines. These are independent bass lines, but which in turn are interlocked with the keyboard chords.
நின்னு கோரி வர்ணம் வர்ணம் இசைத்திட என்னை தேடி வரணும் வரணும்.
So if you listen very carefully, there is actually a bass line underneath, you could say, the keyboard chords, and the bass line is not playing exactly what the keyboard is, but at the same time it is not like a random independent bass line. It is deeply connected to what the keyboard is playing. So Ilayaraja makes these bass lines another part of the jigsaw puzzle that he has constructed, except that this is a puzzle that he has already put together for you. You don't have to figure out anything, you just need to nod your head and enjoy. But that takes a lot of arranging skills, and it remains a mystery as to how a man born in a poor family in a fishing village with no training in music before he came to Chennai looking for work acquired all this knowledge. I don't know if he knows, and even if he does, he isn't saying. So by taking his skills to not only write keyboard guitar parts but also independent and interlocked bass lines, he adopted an approach based on maximalism rather than minimalism. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me explain. Traditionally, film music composers kept it simple. Even when they wrote parts for a large battalion of violins, they didn't write too many layers. They tried to keep it simple and elegant to get the best possible effect without having to manage too much complexity. On the other hand, Ilayaraja wrote as complex music as he could, such that it would make sense. He had the skill to write multiple layers, independent bass lines, counterpoints, and bring it all together coherently. There is a deep sense of almost mathematical logic running through his music. He's not just trying to fit together parts that sound good, he's writing parts that fit each other like gloves. And if you go back to the point that I made earlier about uber staccato lines, that's why he's able to get away with writing so staccato, because everything makes sense in totality. He doesn't need to depend on a sense of flow to make these parts fit together. They fit together in the way that 2 plus 2 equals 4 basically. And I could keep going on and on and on about just this song. But I think I have touched upon the major qualities that differentiate his work from that of other film music composers. To recall, uber staccato, discrete sections, riffs, keyboard guitar parts, independent bass lines, and lastly, maximalism. So my book Raga to Rock has a multi-page subsection devoted to the topic what makes Ilayaraja Ilayaraja. So if you enjoyed this video, you will surely enjoy reading that. When I say that, I mean the subsection as well as hopefully the book. So if you like this video, Please do subscribe and click on the bell icon to get notified whenever I make a new video. Thank you.